We've arrived in Lexington, Kentucky. This is the Haltech office over there. You know, one of the great things about buying Haltech is the backup service, and whether you're in Australia or the other side of the world, you got their product, they want to look after you. So what's going to happen today is we're going to throw the car in the hub dyno. Mitch Smith is going to tune the car remotely from Sydney. I think it's it's 8 o'clock here and it's 11 p.m. at night there. So yeah, he's on standby. We're going to get it in there, put the drive shaft in it, top up the oil in the gear vender, check all the fluids in the engine, and we're going to pull the string on this thing and see what it can do. So yeah, a couple little problems. Went to run the car up on the dyno today and had a bad trigger sensor, a trigger signal. So the car wasn't really responding to normal tuning and timing changes. So what we want to do is, because it's got an aftermarket and SFI flywheel, it doesn't have any timing marks on it, so I'm going to pull number one plug out, put it on top dead center, and mark the balancer and the timing cover. And once I've done that, we can run the engine and we can make sure that the mark corresponds to what the computer's saying. So it's really just making sure, you know, that what the computer's telling us is going on with the motor is actually what's going on in relation to timing. The engine started getting hot for no reason. You know, we kind of went down this road last year with overheating, and we got it really sorted with that radiator and fan. And even before I brought it here to Kentucky, I actually took the fan shroud off, foam sealed the whole lot, plugged up all the holes in it. So you know, that thing's really pulling a bunch of air. So but yeah, it started getting hot, and yeah, we couldn't stop it from overheating. Once the engine's got revs on it, you know, like if you're cruising down the highway, it doesn't want to run hot, but as soon as it comes back to idle, it's shooting for the roof. So we'll start somewhere. We'll start with getting the plug out of it, trying to get a timing mark, making sure that works, and it's a process of elimination, then just working through that overheating issues, trying to make sure that it's not hot because it's actually retarded. So all of this sounded really great in theory, but what we quickly realised was that on the there was something enormously wrong with the timing. And on the LS engines, they run a reluctor wheel on the crankshaft. This has got a standard crank in it, and they're pressed on, they're not welded on. And I have heard stories of them shifting, and that is what has actually happened in the case here. We couldn't get a handle on the timing, and even though the crank was telling us where top dead center was, when we used that as a reference to start putting timing in, the car just ran horribly. So what we had to do was just basically tune with the sensors that were available, and you're using your oxygen sensors, your EGTs, all the other sensors available, the dyno, you know, all of these tools are tuning tools, and racing is all about data acquisition. So at the end of the day, the end of a very long day, we were very fortunate to have a lot of very good help. The guys here at Haltech in the USA have been phenomenal. We also had Dale Hellier from Castle Hill Performance Exhaust on standby trying to help us out. Mitch Smith, but we especially want to thank Scotty Hilsinger from Haltech in Sydney. He was on the phone here. Victor was tuning the car, and he guided us for the whole step of the way. We didn't get an E85 number tonight. You know what? It's been a very long process. We're all really tired. We filled the car up with E85. We're going to come back here first thing tomorrow morning, pull the string when it's nice and cold, when Mitch finished his work back in Sydney. I think it rattled off on £6 on pump fuel. It rattled off like 580 horsepower at the tyres, more than what we need to drive this thing down the highway. But the great thing is we've fixed our overheating problems with a different thermostat in the car, and it sounds, for once, it sounds happy. So a good result today. Thank you to everyone involved, especially all the guys at Haltech. Phenomenal backup, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. So Thursday morning, moment of truth, we're back at Haltech in Lexington, Kentucky. Wednesday was a bit of a trying day, I've got to admit, but we ironed out a lot of the issues, overheating. We worked out that the car had a triggering problem due to the reluctor wheel on the crank had moved. So we got a pump gas tune in it last night, rolled up this morning, had the E85 in the tank, Mitch Smith on standby back in Australia. It was midnight back there, ready to pull the string. So everything started off okay, and as we started putting a bit of power in it, it started dropping number 6 cylinder. So we began by just swapping the plug lead between 2 cylinders, and that didn't help things. So then we swapped the plug between 2 cylinders, and that didn't help things. So we thought, well, I'll swap the coil, pulled the coil off, and had never noticed before, but this coil had been cracked and repaired at some stage. That coil's been on the car ever since the car was built. But anyhow, look, good to find out what the problem is. Back running on all cylinders, started doing a few pulls, and everything was looking really good. Started making good power. We kind of got to the point of around 850 horsepower on 17 pound of boost, which was, you know, things are looking good. And you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, 17 pound, another 10, 12. You know, we're going to make a really solid number here. You know, we were expecting a big number. So long story short, what we've come up against is springs in the wastegate, can't hold the gate shut. You know, a couple of options, either change the springs in the gates, which we don't have, CO2, which isn't really an option. The other issue we noticed was that the bar and plate core on the front, I mean, it was an eBay core that was manufactured, you know, 100mm thick. As soon as we started pulling it, intake temps were going straight to 70, 75 degrees. A really unhealthy figure for any kind of race car. Mind you, it was on the back of doing about 16 power pulls in a run. So where we're at now is where so many drag weekers are at. We're out of time. So in the last 4 days, we've had to jet in here, get the car ready, drive 14 hours across the countryside, spend 1 day at another race meeting. But it's Thursday, we've got to get on the road. We've got a scrutiny of the car in Atlanta on Saturday. Unfortunately, we've just got to be content with what we got. So we're going to roll out the door with 850 at the tyres. Interesting to note, same engine size, same cam. The only change has been the headers and some slightly better cylinder heads. But we've gone from 723 horsepower at the tyre on 24 pound last year to 850 horsepower at the tyre on 17 pound this year. So look, the engine sounds really happy. It's all the rods are still in it. It's not leaking oil. We're going to take a healthy car to drag week. Over the next couple of days, we're going to spend some time trying to find some springs for the wastegates. You know, over the period of drag week, I'd like to think that we can find some more boost to put in it. I think we've got enough to bust into the 8s at the moment. Rear end change, slightly bigger tyre, I think is going to allow us to 60 foot a bit better. We're going to buzz the motor harder, and with the gear bender, we're going to bring it home. Huge thanks to all the team here at Haltech. The support here has been amazing. Could not have done it without them, and looking forward to the next stage of our trip. Thanks. Okay, you know what?